Hello everyone, this is Coach Dinosaur. Today I am sharing with you one of the most played in the top level. This is one of the best defense against d4, and this is called the Gruenfeld Defence. This defense starts with d4, knight f6, c4, g6, and now normally white plays knight c3 then d5, but here white plays a more deviated line with this Gruenfeld defense, but is quite strong. That is why today it's good to study this line, f3. So f3 is normally it's a more Samish line against the King's Indian defense. So this uh, play is also can be used against a Gruenfeld defense. So here the typical line d5 is played. So now c takes d5, knight takes d5, and now f3, e4. Then knight moves to b6. Here white plays a4, planning to attack again the knight. Another line is knight c3, but today we will study a4. So once opponent plays a4, black should play a5 to prevent the pawn moving to a5 to attack the knight. And after that, there's bishop e3, bishop g7, and then knight c3, castle. Alright, so today the main line is knight rook c1, but we will also check if the opponent plays the queen d2, which is not really harmless against this Gruenfeld defense. So now here black can just play knight c6 and then d5. If knight b5, black can also play knight b4, which is excellent position for black. Now if here black plays d5, now black plays knight d4, the same plan. For example, if white continues with rook c1, threatens the c7 pawn once the knight moves on b5. So this is a great move from white. And here e6, destroying the center. And now knight b5 and then c6. Here if white plays capture on c6, of course queen takes queen. If bishop takes d2, then black can just play capture. So this bishop is prevented so that it can capture the knight here. So that's why it's good to capture with the king. And after that, knight takes, which is really good for black. And here white has open king, and at the same time the pawn on b2 is isolated pawn, is an isolated pawn, and might be captured in the next few moves. So for example, he tries this check, and then if king e2, there you go. And I don't think white has a very good position here because of these three undeveloped pieces. So instead of capturing the pawn on c6, Let's take a look if uh, what if white captures the e6 move. So once this is captured, so the same goes, capture, uh, because this bishop is still attacking the knight there, since the pawn can capture the knight. So of course we should remove the e6 first, because there is a pawn takes pawn check, intermediate check, and here now capture, pawn takes, bishop takes b5, and now f5. Here white's position is not in a good position, because uh, white has weaknesses, especially the king is not safe. The king is still under is still looking for a protected squares, and at the same time the b2 is under attack, and absolutely white really gains an advantage here. So for example, he plays knight e2, f takes, bishop, and of course check. So if he doesn't move the knight there, example he just played this, so now rook takes f5, knight e2, and now bishop e6, f4, and knight d5. And again, the position is really not really very good for white. So we'll go back to the position where, instead of playing the plan d5, and instead of queen d2, we stick to the more dangerous move for white. So this is rook c1. So now after rook c1, black can now play knight c6 and knight b5. The knight is pinned because white threatens the c7, but here black plays a very good move, bishop d7, because this bishop is really into this a4 pawn, which gives white a very dangerous position because of that isolated pawn, since the rook, the knight, this bishop are not yet well developed, and also the king is not even safe. That is why white's position, even though has a weakness on c7, is still in a good development. So here, if white plays d5, now is knight b4, good move. So let's take a look if, like for example, rook takes c7. So we have bishop takes knight, where the rook will be under attack. So he has to make a move to protect the rook. So bishop takes knight is a very good move, but here bishop takes is under attack. So king captures, and now rook a6 threatens the bishop, and if the bishop moves, the rook will be captured. So for example, rook takes, then black loses bishop, and at the same time the position is undeveloped for white also. So here white is winning, and eventually there is no way out to protect the bishop here. Now, what if he doesn't capture with the rook? What if knight takes c7. So here, if knight takes c7, then let's have knight, of course, knight takes a4. This knight takes a4 is also attacking the pawn on b2, and with this idea, now if for example knight captures the rook, so here goes knight takes, good move. So as you can see, again, the queen is under pressure. So of course this cannot be done because there is a really a very bad position for white. And if he plays here capture, and there's no other move, only queen a3, and then after queen takes, the black is threatening to play knight c2, so he will get back the lost exchange. At the same time, black has two pass pawns on the queen side, and at the same time these white pieces are also not yet developed, so it's not so good to capture the pawn, right? So here instead of capturing the c7, after bishop d7, white should just play b3 first, protecting the a pawn before proceeding with the move on d5. So after this, again, knight moves b4. Still, this move works in such kind of position. So there are choices of capturing the pawn. So for example, rook captures, eventually it will lead to a losing position because of bishop takes knight, and the rook will be captured in the next move. And if the rook moves, example, absolutely white loses the piece. So here, if knight takes c7, now let's have rook c8, knight b5. Of course, if you move here, you will end up losing the center pawns, and eventually black has a very good position because white's king is not yet castled, and these pieces are not yet well developed. So here knight b5 is a better move. Now let's have rook takes c1, and then queen takes c1, bishop takes knight, bishop takes bishop, and now black has equalized materials. So at the same time, again, the king is still finding its safety squares, is still uncastled. So after bishop takes d4, black certainly has great position. So if for example he continues with the bishop takes, queen takes, knight e2, and now queen d6, castle, and rook c8, this gives black the initiative. So let's proceed with the so instead of, after knight b4, instead of rook takes or knight takes, black white can still make a pressure on such line. So it's bishop f4. So with the bishop f4, black can play now good move e5. So with the e5, d takes e5. Of course, if bishop takes, which is not so good, bishop captures bishop, bishop takes e5, d takes e5. Now uh, white is attacking the g2 and at the same time the e5 pawn. So for example, he protects with the with the, with the king, and now rfd8, and eventually leading to a disaster. Of course not here. There is a pin, and if rook e1, rook knight e2, and now c6, pressuring the bishop on b5 because the bishop is protecting the d3. So once the bishop is out, then the knight d3 is coming. So for example, he plays here, and now queen d8 gives black a very good advantage. So here, instead of capturing with the bishop, white can capture with the pawn. He takes e5. So here, now c6, knight d6. White looks like has a very good position, but actually, if you can see, he has only moved the rook on c1, the bishop on f4, the knight on d6, but the king's safety is still not yet clear, and the rook, knight, and bishop are not yet well placed. So here, after knight d6, black plays bishop e6, and white should play white can play bishop g3. Now if knight takes b7, so if knight takes b7, it's not a very good move because of this queen takes. After rook takes, bishop takes, also threatening bishop takes a4, and if you protect with the rook, there's a fork, and if you don't, then you will eventually end up having a uncastled king. At the same time, black has passed pawns on the queen side, while the e5 pawn is still finding a right protection, since bishop is the only piece protecting it. So here black has a very good position. So now after bishop e6, bishop g3 is a great option for white because it is planning to play f4, at the same time knight f3. So with that, of course, queen e7 protecting now the b7 pawn, at the same time planning to make a pin. So here f4, rook a d8, pinning the knight so that the knight cannot plan for this. Of course, this is not so good. After bishop takes, good move, pawn takes, and now bishop takes, and black is totally winning because of this pin. So here, instead of that f5, white can play knight f3, and now knight c8, giving black a very good chance to return back the lost pawn. At the same time, black has already managed to place all his pieces. The b3 is a very weak position, and he has to find ways to protect it. And for example, he plays here, for example, now knight captures, e takes, rook takes d6, and queen e2. We have bishop c4. Of course, if this move has been this, yep, and if rook takes, then we have b5, capture, c takes, and if it's e5, bishop takes, e takes, queen d3, king d1, d6, c6, a4, and winning for black. I hope you enjoyed this video. You can further study the positions that I have given, and please study more, so that there are other possibilities that white can play. All you need to do is to check those possibilities, but I have given you major possible options for white. And thank you for watching. Please subscribe.